here we are, me and the Ozark Howler. We're engaged. Before we start, this is the non-paranormal part of the From the Shadows podcast. For those who do not read the titles nor the descriptions of episodes, just putting it out there for a disclaimer in case you think we're going to talk about aliens. We may get to that, but the Howler and I, as is a lot of times, our discussion before we went on air was pretty good. And so with no political, we're not picking any political sides, but within the discussion we had, we were talking about Hunter Biden and how intelligent he seemed. And maybe what you said.
Let me just set it up because you're screwing it up, okay? And the few listeners I have will leave if you continue to talk. Okay. What I said was President Biden had said several times that Hunter Biden, his son, is the smartest guy he knows. And not on a daily basis, but on a weekly basis, when I'm making my rounds, people will tell me, can you believe the president said that? Now, I'm ad-libbing because they don't give him proper respect for his position, but that guy's got to be dumb, Meek and Hunter's dumb. And I just, part of me says, the dark side of me says, how dumb is he? He got $47 million smoking crack with hookers in a hot tub and doesn't have a job. And I know, I've said this many times. I tell my kids, there's a lot of people that work their ass off and don't have any money, right? So when we program kids, we tell them, hey, if you work hard, you'll be successful. No. You won't. I mean, there's no guarantee. You know what I mean? And just because you work hard, I mean, I know a lot of people that bust their ass and they're poor. So, but how stupid is he? He has had the ability to funnel off money. And I know I'm going to get the arrows coming after me because he has used his position, his father's position or whatever, allegedly to glean that money. But he's figured out a revenue stream, right? And then I segued into telling you that, hey, some of the smartest people I've met are in the penitentiary. I don't mean to break it to you, but just because they're in a prison don't mean they're stupid.
Exactly. And which led me to talk to you about a interview I heard with Hunter Biden, and where he talked about his drug use, and it was extensive. It was terrible. And how I listened to a podcast, Mark Maron, WTF, because I like to listen to the entertainment, talking to the actors and the singers and comedians and stuff like that. But the amount of people, and then this is every walk of life I see, but that specifically, who have what seems to me is be crippling drug and alcohol abuse issues. And I wonder how they ever are able to get anything done. I mean, having never touched any of that stuff, I mean, I wake up some mornings and I feel like every Nick Nolte movie, every character Nick Nolte ever played in a movie. You know what I'm saying? How he used to, it looked like he got run over by a steamroller in half his movies and stuff. And I, as I've gotten older, I feel that way. And I'm like, God, can you imagine adding drugs and alcohol and smoking cigarettes on top of that?
Well, maybe they would feel better maybe you would feel better if you had a few. I was telling a friend of mine, I don't even know how we're getting off on this. I was telling a friend of mine.
It's not on the list.
Who's a recovered alcoholic, right?
Yeah.
That I said, my brother, before he died, he confessed to me that he drank a fifth of whiskey a day. I think he went through 7 bottles in 8 days, or 8 bottles in 7 days. I don't remember. And my buddy said, I don't want to take anything away from your brother, but that's not too bad. And I said, what? And he said, dude, in the height, he said when he said his wife's name, she brought me to rehab my second or third time. He said I was a 0.33 or 3.2 or something, and they want to know why I wasn't dead. And he said, I could function. I drank so much, I could function so good. He said, I know I can't even count the times I was pulled over. He was a border patrolman. I can't even count the times I was pulled over, and I would badge these cops, and they would talk to me a little bit. Well, you seem okay. Don't drink anymore, and let me go. You know what I mean? And he said, because I had drank so much for so long, I could function for the most part. He said, now had they made me blow on a machine or done a gaze in the stigmas or something, they would have had me. But back to these smart people. The person I told you, a guy I went to high school with, is in prison for DWI number 5 or 6. The car he hit, what happened is he had this old truck. He ran a stop sign and hit an eastbound car. When he hit that eastbound pickup truck, and it made that pickup truck cross the center line. He basically T-boned it, but it made it cross the center line and hit a person and killed him. And they gave him, the maximum, which I think was kind of a screwball deal in a little ways. His defense attorney, who had got him out of the first 4 or 5, there was a big brouhaha on how he had this many DWIs and had never been to prison yet. Well, his defense attorney had just won election to prosecutor. So he kind of made to try to give himself cover.
He made up for all the times he got him off.
Yes. You know what I mean? And, and as crazy as that sounds, that's kind of the way it works sometimes, And
sometimes you're the bug and sometimes you're the windshield, right?
But my point was, I told you, I said he was a bright flight honor student at the University of Missouri Columbia in the engineering program until he just basically quit going to school because he was drunk and smoking dope and working in the bars and doing everything he could do. And he could function as well as he was so smart in his worst days, he was better than average. You know what I mean?
I got you. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So in some ways, maybe they need that. Those super high functioning people need something, right? And some of them either get Twitter and Tesla, but some of them get a jail cell. I don't know,
So you're saying it's a thin line between a solitary confinement and
I think it's
Twitter.
Yeah, I think it's a fine line between being a genius or a lunatic. You know what I mean? And and very few people would be able to know the difference. That's the sad part, right?
Yeah, because I think it probably that line really gets blurred. The more successful you probably get, because you're doing some stuff probably that you have to, no matter how smart it seems, it's probably a inner dilemma with your soul. For lack of a better term,
I guess. Yeah. You'd have demons or whatever, Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about it. I'm not smart.
It's funny you say that because, the judge's dad, when he left their family and took off for Florida and, he was the consummate, con guy. I think he did paint up here. He did paint job. He worked in a factory, but he did painting. And what he would do is he's one of those guys that watered down the paint, paint job took 5 gallons. He'd buy 2 gallons and thin it out with water. And by the time he painted your stuff, it looked great until, 3 rainstorms down the road. Well, by then he was long gone. Well, so he picked up and went to Florida and started another con where he got down there and got fruit that was thrown away and would polish it up and make it look good and then sell it to unsuspecting people on the roadside. But he was a bottle of black velvet a day is what he drank. And they told him, you can't stop drinking or you'll die.
Right.
His body was so used to that black velvet that if he would have stopped, it would have killed him, they thought.
Well, so once you go black, you never go back.
God. Anyway, speaking of Brown, we kind of talked off the air, and I wasn't really allowed to say too much because Christy is an employee of UPS. But we were really sweating out that UPS strike that almost happened because my wife is a loyal, UPS employee, but she sits behind she sits at a desk and has a really very important job, but because she's not part of the Teamsters Union, she was going to be reassigned to driving a truck and delivering packages as long as the strike went on. And I can't even, I couldn't, I'm not going to bash the leadership of UPS, but I just didn't understand how you could take a 120-pound woman who sits, does important stuff.
Now, don't get sexist on us. Don't be misogynist. Those girls can do the exact same job you can.
She at her age, now she looks really good. She's a great.
No difference.
Listen,
whoa.
No,
don't go off the rails on me here.
No,
there is no difference in her
rails.
abilities and let's say my abilities. Okay.
There is a huge amount of difference.
No, there is not. There is absolutely not. There is absolutely not.
Yes, there is.
No,
there is, because she is not.
She is just.
She was not prepared.
It's because you have not given her. It's because society has not given her the opportunity to lift all the heavy shit that you have. Okay. Yeah,
because she's way smarter. She got into it. She got into a career in management where she didn't have to. So, but yeah, she's just like, what am I doing? Because here she is having to drive this great big, this big truck. They told him, you're gonna have to work 15 hours a day. And I'm like, Christy, I can barely lift some of the packages I get on the mail route. How are you guys going to do this that do not have, there was people older than me that were going from desk jobs to do this. And I thought, this is just going to be awful for those people, and thankfully, I work in a business where the people way high up, they've never done the job that we've done, which happens a lot in some of our labor intensive businesses. Those people don't normally work their way up, because the idea is well, all you're good for is lugging boxes and delivering mail. What do you know? How can you possibly, run the post office? Well, I can tell you what would work and what doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? From being out there every day. So this is one of those instances where I'm glad that they didn't have to be proven wrong, because it would have been a disaster, And Christy was not looking forward to it. She's ready to go do it. She went past the test to drive a truck. She was ready to go, but she was not looking forward to it. And I thought, man, I hope she didn't have to do that and hurt her back or something, because it's no joke. You know what I'm saying? No joke. I couldn't, if I didn't do the job right now and hadn't been doing it, I couldn't start right now and do it. There's no way. There's just no way. Wouldn't be possible. I think I'd wake up feeling like Nick Nolte now. I'd really feel like it'd be terrible. So there you go. This Nick. Speaking of another great interview,
I love Nick Nolte more than Hunter Biden. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I said, speaking of another great interview that Mark Maron did, that Nick Nolte interview was fantastic.
Oh, wasn't that great? I'm telling you what now.
That was good. People quit. Well, the best part was him talking about playing college football. And
now, do you think, hold on a second now, do you think some of these, and I'm going to use the term Hollywood to encompass the entertainment industry, right?
Yeah.
So there's so many crazy people in the entertainment business, right? Now, do you think they're that eccentric? Did they get that way after they made the money? You know what I'm saying? So were they normal before they got the money, and then the money and the time, the freedom and the space put the zap on their head?
I've heard so many different interviews with a wider, degree of people that I think some people are just wired to be crazy, and that makes them great actors and actresses, because if you really are going to act, you have to suspend belief in a reality that we all are living in, create your own reality and become somebody else to the point where your real person's unrecognizable. You know what I'm saying? So it takes some talent or some craziness to do that. I go back, I'm sure most of our listeners have seen The Joker. Okay. What Joaquin Phoenix did in that's not normal. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he has to have a screw loose to be able to get inside that character. And that's a character he made up. That's not even like he's playing somebody else. He's making it to where he, as a real person, is almost unrecognizable, And I don't think that is something that money did to him. I think that's just his quote unquote talent that he has. A talent to harness his craziness, if that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
But I do think some people do get a certain amount of money and fame and stuff, and then their reality actually does change, like they're so famous you can't go do anything, and it changes. I mean, imagine, boy, how bad is this? Imagine if we couldn't go to the grocery store or go to Walmart without having people bothering you all the time. I mean, I have people bothering me.
Hold on. Are you sure that's because you live in a small town? But
oh, God.
What? Why do you think? My point was.
Well, I was gonna say I can't go to Kroger or Walmart without people coming up and talking to me too. But that's not because what I'm saying. It's not because I'm
just saying. Do you really think most people would recognize some of these smart people? Or not smart people, but some of these Hollywood people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. There's, who knows? I don't know. I mean, it's just a different world too. Out there, what they're involved in and stuff. And
my thought process there was, I think some of them have an overinflated view of their inability to go out and buy cigarettes or coffee or something. You know what I mean?
Well,
I don't think my point is, I don't know
if they're as famous as what they think they are.
Yes.
Well, fame now is way different than it was when we were growing up, because there's so many different outlets for music and movies and television.
Yes, because I read, it's common that I read the Daily Mail. Hold on, not to step on you here. But half of the articles I read on the entertainment, I don't even know who they're talking about.
True. There you
go. You know what I mean? So some of the most famous, not smartest, but some of the most famous, richest actors and actresses and some of these entertainers could walk by me and I wouldn't know who they are.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It gives, with our buddy Wade, he's a big, he watches where people are playing music-wise, because he likes to play the game. Well, I know how many seats are there, and this is what they're asking for seats. So then he can pretty much ballpark what that person's getting paid to do that concert. Yeah, do that show. And sometimes he's amazed, like, have you ever heard of this person? And I'm like, no. And it happens frequently, especially in the rock and pop world, where he and I don't have even any kind of frame of reference for the artist that they're talking about. And I said, well, I go, back when we were growing up, we would have at least had a frame of reference for that person, because there were the outlets were so few that you bumped into, who the hard rock people were, and who, like, I didn't listen to the New York Dolls or the Ramones or anybody like that, but because the space was so much smaller, you knew who they were. You'd heard of them, you saw pictures of them, you saw stories about them, and then all the people they influenced. And now you can have somebody who's got 1 million followers on a piece of social network.
Yeah, Nipsey Hussle. I didn't know who he was, so he got gunned down.
No, but I will tell you what, that's a great name, Nipsey Hussle. You know what I'm saying? Because
I guess I don't know.
Did you
know? Called Bullet Magnet. What? I forgot. Why did this guy shoot him?
I don't know what. Just because of who he was.
I mean, it was a Jake Brennan Disgraceland, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. But that leads me to who Nipsey Russell was, one of the great comedians from the 60s and 70s and early 80s.
This guy knew that, and that's why he took the name?
Oh, he had. Yes, come on, he had to, right?
I wouldn't even know what people have to do anymore, man.
I mean, it is kind of weird, that a young guy would know who Nipsey Russell was, but maybe he was a big fan of The Wiz. Who knows? Do you not get the Nipsey?
No,
Nipsey
I don't even know who that was. Nope. Was he on Hee Haw?
No, Nipsey.
Then
Russell.
I didn't see him.
Nipsey Russell was a comedian, and he played the Tin Man in the Wiz.
Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, the Michael Jackson, Diana Ross. Was it Berry Gordy that did that? But it was the version of their version of the Wiz, or Wizard of Oz. Ease on down the road, baby. That was great.
No, I didn't know that.
Much panned movie, but I always enjoyed it because I liked the music.
Well, I love Michael Jackson.
Look, I like Michael Jackson, the performer. I'm not so thrilled about some of the stuff he did. But you talk about somebody who just didn't lead
a talented oddball. No,
yeah, he just didn't lead a real life. Which
was it? You telling me he drove around with his Grammy in the car in case he got caught or something?
No, I didn't tell you.
Or Oscar or something. You know what story I'm talking about?
No, I don't. But I didn't tell you that because I don't think Michael Jackson drove.
Apparently, where did I hear this? Read this. He did he have a Grammy? He had a Grammy, not an Oscar, right?
I'm sure he had many Grammys. Yeah, yeah.
Well, what would be better, an Oscar or a Grammy, if you were on the lam? I don't know. The bottom line is he was running around when his fortunes changed. He basically fled the Wonderland Ranch in this limo with, a change of clothes and an Oscar or Grammy. I think it was an Oscar for whatever it was, with one of his trophies. And it reminds you a lot when you start reading about OJ and his Heisman Trophy, right? That something means so much to these guys.
Did he?
OJ, I don't think it's ever been recovered. Nobody knows where it's at.
Really? I'm going to have to look that up. But by the way, Michael Jackson had 13 Grammys, a Grammy Legend Award, and a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, 26 American Music Awards. But I do not see that he had, and I don't even know what he would have an Oscar for. But go ahead.
So anyway, he apparently fled, and that was his ace in the hole if he ever, you know what I mean?
He didn't have a driver's license.
Yeah, but I get wherever I was reading it or listening to it, it had to do with if you were down on your luck, Howard Hughes style, and you ended up in some jail in Louisiana, you could pull your Grammy out of your suitcase and they would instantly know who you were.
The O.J. Simpson's Heisman Trophy was eventually seized from Gilbert, who I don't know who Gilbert was. If he was the
one of the
guy,
bag men.
Was he the guy that in Vegas that O.J. Simpson held at gunpoint because he had some of his memorabilia? I don't know.
Maybe.
It was put up for auction in 1999 and purchased for $255,000 by a Pennsylvania sheet metal wholesaler named Tom Kreisman, who later said he bought Simpson's Heisman to impress his girlfriend. How about that?
How damaged was she to even know about OJ's Heisman? You know what I mean? What the hell kind of gal is that?
I don't know.
She's dating a sheet metal worker. One thing, must be a union guy, so he's probably the steward or the boss or something to skim enough profits to get that union.
He was the owner of the sheet metal business.
Okay, so he's like the yellow freight guy, Somebody's getting all that pension money. But I was just thinking, the poor girl,
that
impressed her. You know what I mean?
Well, but that's what he bought to impress her. Like, he didn't buy her diamond ring, didn't buy her new car.
Right.
Like, the car.
What did he pay for it? Did he say what he paid for it?
$255,000. Imagine the stuff he could have bought that girlfriend of his that would have really impressed her, like $100,000 diamond ring.
Unless she's got a knot on her head, unless she's really a girlfriend. Nowadays, she might have been some kind of crossed up OJ fan. Or OJ put her up to it and turned her to get her to buy it for him to get it back. And she don't. I told you, once you go black, you never go back.
Oh, God. Okay. So we'll go on to it. By the way, it was a sad day last week here in our community. One of the former firemen, who was the police chief at one of the local volunteer fire departments, John Schieffer. And I don't know how many listeners we have from our area, but he passed away. I think it was Saturday or Sunday. We had just seen him at the fair last week. Waved to him. Apparently, he had an aneurysm.
His time was up, just like the movie, right?
60. Yeah, he's like 61, 62 years old. Yeah.
Whoa. That's getting kind of young there.
Yes. Great guy.
Was he in good shape still?
He was indeed. He was a farmer. They were big farmers, or they were farmers. He had a grain setup business, like a grain bins. And he had worked with my uncle and stuff at the fire department, but he had enough years in to retire. And just quick aneurysm. Hopefully he didn't have pain, but they did something kind of cool in his honor. Instead of buying flowers and stuff for the funeral, he was really instrumental in the toy drive for the kids through the fire department. And so I guess they just donated a crap load of toys to give to the kids in his name. So he would have really been he'd have really been touched that everybody did that. But it just goes to show you, One. I mean, I couldn't hardly believe it because I literally had just seen it the day before, and it's just the older you get, you start seeing, the people start passing away from your community that were the guys that you looked up to, the men and women you looked up to growing up, and it's like, man, it's going to be a scary time when you get up to that. If you are blessed enough to get up to that age and you start looking around and realize I'm the one that's left standing, So, but he came from a great family and
go ahead.
I'm just saying he had some great kids. So I kind of want to put that out there because I do know people from the community listen, and he was a good dude. So he will definitely be missed.
Well, I was thinking when I don't know why, but I was reading about Red Fox. When he passed away, people thought he was
faking.
Yes, because he had done it so much as Elizabeth and all that other stuff. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, John Schieffer was not faking, from what I understand. But yeah, it was, and it's tough. It's tough because these are guys. When I talk about the firemen, these are guys that when I was growing up and going to high school,
they were larger than life.
They were larger than life. My grandpa was the fire chief until I was a sophomore. My uncle, just recently retired within 5 years as the captain. So these guys were up. I would go up to the fire department, especially in high school and college, because I could always, go up.
Even to buy beer for you.
I didn't drink.
No.
What are you talking about? No, and they didn't drink.
You bought them for use. So the girls. Anyway, go ahead.
No.
Different time.
No, different time. No, it was like a second home. You could go up and you'd see my uncle, but then you'd see all the other guys that
lifting weights, cooking, washing the truck.
That's right.
And that check.
Uh-huh. Right.
That's back before they made them run all them ambulance calls. I remember those days. Uh-huh.
And you could sit and talk to them, find out what's going on in town.
Yeah, a good friend of mine's dad was a fire captain. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was great. And now there's not a whole lot of those guys left. That were up there. Now almost all of them have retired, but there's not a lot of them
and
left.
You're saying the new guys, that the younger generation just don't.
I don't even know. I know, like,
cast that
the guy that's the chief now is, I might know one other guy on the department. That's it. One other guy and the chief. And the chief was a guy that was my age in school and got hired in, as a young kid and has worked his way up. But it's not the same. I don't feel like I can go up to the fire department, just hang out and talk, so that kind of part of my life is kind of passed by. But, it's weird in how stuff is, especially in a small town, how that stuff is a part of your life, and then one day it's gone. It's gone. Like, it'll be that way at the post office.
When you're gone, people will talk about it. Yes.
When I am gone, there's one guy who's got a couple more. He's a couple years older than me. He's getting ready to retire, and then it'll be me. I mean, there's a lady that's older than us, but she's even old. She just started late, but she's ready to retire too. But then it'll be me. I'll be the oldest one there. And it wasn't that long ago where I was the newest guy there. And it'll be weird because I'll look around and I work with a bunch of great people, but it'll just be weird. Like, I'm the oldest. I'll be the oldest dude there. And yeah, I'm sure. I mean, you probably felt that way at some of the places you were, like being because you were always probably the youngest. You never got to be the oldest.
Yeah, nothing ever worked out for me. I usually leave before I get to be the oldest.
Oh my gosh. But really though, would you want to still be out there, like, doing sheriff, road deputy?
I was at my father-in-law's funeral. I was seeing all kinds of cops, and then of course at the ambulance call, because they called 911 obviously, and I got there and there was a bunch of them there, and I don't even know how to exist in that world anymore.
And you don't, like, but you know what I'm saying, though. You can still go up to the sheriff's department, and it's still. I mean, you say it all the time. You run into guys that you knew and worked.
Yeah,
with.
And they're old people now. I mean, I don't know any of the young people, but they're old people.
Yeah. So they're.
It's like going back to high school. Yeah, you can tell somebody where the bathrooms are, but you won't recognize anybody on the way to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what life really is. It's high school. I used to say it all the time, being a cop, it was high school with guns, because you got cliques and you have, popular kids and perceived to be popular kids and jocks and weirdos. And that's life, right? High school is a snapshot of life.
Interesting. Yeah, okay.
Is it not?
To a degree, yeah. It depends, and it depends. It especially depends if you stay where you went to school. I think if you get out and you leave and go somewhere else, especially if you go to college and then go to somewhere else, I think that whole dynamic changes quite a bit. But sure, if you're, I mean, living in the community that I grew up in, yeah, I can still feel it, where there's people older than you, younger than you, that and there's cliques, and who do you know and what do you have, and now it's not whether you're good at sports, it's what kind of truck do you drive, or stuff like that.
Yes, I seen it. It's funny you say that. I seen it today. Me and my little brother. The short version is this: he had a meeting with a guy that was a few years older than me in high school, and about 8 years older than him in high school, or 9 years older than him. And the guy really doesn't know anything about us two, other than I ran into him at the bank one day here a while back. And anyway, I told my little brother, I said, well, hey, call me when you go to meet him, because I'll go with you. I'd like to, sit down with him. And this guy's kind of a very successful real estate broker and some other stuff. And when we went over to this place to look at it, what he wanted to do is, he's got a house that's got a siding issue. And one of the things my brother does is he does some insurance restoration work for a roofing and siding company, among other things, right?
Yeah.
So, and this guy opined to my brother a couple of days ago, I can't get anybody to look at anything down here. Blah, blah. My brother says, well, hey, you me come over. Maybe I get some guys to just swing by. If it's something little, they can, maybe come by and do it in half a day or something, right? So we drove over and met him, and he was parked on the street. And of course, he had a new Cadillac with his initials on his license plate. And here, me and my brother were in this old Chevy truck of mine with the air conditioning on. And of course, we we pulled up. I put the window down and told this guy he had a beautiful car. And he instantly, said thanks. And I said, I'm going to drive down in the cul-de-sac. I'll come back and park behind you. And when I did, I looked at my brother and I said, well, I guess you should have drove the BMW, because my brother was driving the BMW when he met me, when he left it up at the grocery store, because I was at Walmart. And he goes, no, I probably should have drove the Bentley. And then they could, because these, you know what I mean? Because you could just tell that they were judging us not on the farms that we own or the things that we have. It was, what kind of old truck? And here we are in this crappy old truck. Not a crappy old truck, but I mean, the air conditioning works, but just an old truck. I don't know. I can't. So I can totally see that small town attitude.
Yeah. I mean, definitely.
So I went home and jumped in my in-ground swimming pool. It makes me feel better about myself.
Oh my gosh. Before we got on air, the one thing we were talking about, it was I made a reservation, and I don't do this very often. My daughter loves
Airbnb.
On Airbnb, she loves.
I don't like it because, dude, I keep reading these articles. These weirdos put cameras and recording devices and shit.
I don't read those articles. And if somebody wants to watch me, I guess they can. I mean, it's not going to be very.
I think maybe they want to watch Christy.
Well, I won't deny that, but. So made one in Lexington. I found this place. Looks really cool, like an old house in Lexington.
And what are you going down there for?
Well, we're going. So her mom once a year goes to this really small community in south of Lexington, Kentucky. I don't even know the name of it, but it's a church, and this community is so poor. They just need everything, and so she saves over the course of a year everything, clothes, household items and stuff. And so this is the time that she wanted to go down. And so Christy and I guess, said we're going to go down. So we're going to take her down Sunday, and we're going to stay wherever. I don't even, like I said, I haven't figured out the town yet. So I'm trying to find a place there. But on the way back on Monday, after we're going to get up Monday, go and take all the stuff and help them sort through it. And then we'll go to this place in Lexington, and it looks like it's kind of cool downtown. We can stay, walk around a little bit, and then head back home, come up through Cincinnati and go back home. So I've taken a chance at this Airbnb. So I hope by the time this comes out, we'll have already been there. I hope that if we didn't make the news because I found some hidden cameras on the wall, or it turned into be a dungeon, sex trafficking kind of trap or something. Had a lot of good reviews, so I had to go with that.
Well, sometimes that's all you can go by, right?
I know. So I just did. I don't know. I'm just hoping. I would love to hear. I would love to hear if we have listeners who have had just some terrible, terrible Airbnb experiences, and kind of like you said, did they find cameras behind the kitchen or bathroom mirror? Did they, what kind of crazy stuff did they find?
Mm-hmm.
So be interested to hear if anybody has anything like that to say.
No.
So, or if you have good ones. If you have a good one, share a good one with us.
Yeah, right? We should have said that.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I just read one yesterday that was about, God, what was it? It was they beat somebody beat the Airbnb guy up because there was a listening device or a recording device of some sorts. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's kind of good. That's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy.
But my brother loves it. My brother and his kind of crew, they use them all over the world, or not all over the world, but certainly all over the U.S. when they travel. So I guess.
Well, it was cheaper than a hotel.
I'm sure of it.
And it's kind of a cool place. It looks really cool. So it'd be cool. So I don't know. Give it a try. I'll give a report on it for next week's episode. Tell everybody how
well, if you make it, you might be down there putting lotion on your skin or something to make a, Joe Dirt handbag type of thing.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.